busy,
nourishing and busy for us. And now we've got this moment being out here, so I'm really pleased with that. We sent out Hunter's bio, so you had that on email, plus it's in your packet, so they've got all that. So
Perfect.
I won't go over all that too much. But what's particularly important for this group here is that you were a friend and colleague of Dana's. So this is a group that when we get together, and also an early systems thinker in everything that you did and all of your work, so that of course inspires us as well. And there's a lot of connections, actually, so I'm just going to name a few of them here. Drew Jones, who's near and dear to our hearts, was your intern, I think, back in the early 1990s.
Dana wrote me and said, I want you are going to hire the best student I ever had.
And you did.
I said, fine, send him. That was Drew.
So Drew relates the story of talking about how Dana always, when he was with you, you really wanted Dana to move out to Colorado. And you, as Drew says, he likes to tell it was, you'd always say, she won't come because of those damn farm and those damn
sheep.
She won't come. But then I guess Dana got you to come east for a little bit. You were a Montgomery Fellow, as I recall, at Dartmouth?
Loose, visiting, or distinguished scholar or something.
Okay, so you were at Dartmouth for a while, and as I recall, she was trying to get you to come permanently. But
she
you
was.
Come because of the damn ranch and the damn horses. We had that back and forth. And I was lucky. You probably don't remember, but I remember. I was at Dartmouth when you were visiting scholar. I was there and went to many lectures and some of your classes, and I remember distinctly being at one lecture in Spalding Hall or somewhere, and you and Amory were up on stage with a big shaggy dog. You had a big shaggy dog at the time, and you were talking about the BTUs of that dog and how your house was so tight and energy efficient that that dog helped heat the house. So, fast forward a couple decades, I moved to Cobb Hill. I look at my dog, thanks to your shaggy dog, and say, you're helping heat this house here. Move around. So that struck very much as I'm now at Cobb Hill. And my husband, Jay Mead, who these guys all know because he does some of the creative expression work for the fellows over a period of time, he says the class he took from you was the most influential of his life.
Wow.
At Dartmouth there, and continues to be so. And he also said that at one point, it must have been 1982, you assigned everybody a visioning exercise. And he did the visioning exercise, and then early 1990s, we moved to, early 2000s, we moved to Cobb Hill, and he said, this is it. This is what I did in Hunter's visioning assignment in Cobb Hill. So we have those connections there. So it goes way back when we really think about it. So with that, I live at Cobb Hill, Nancy lives at Cobb Hill, Lori lives at Cobb Hill, Natalie's a neighbor there, so you've been in on Dana's dreams early on, and some of us are manifesting and carrying on. So thank you for joining us.
It's over? Well, maybe. I remember sitting with Dana in 1995 or so when the savings and loan crash happened, saying we just didn't see how it could possibly, the system could possibly survive. And then it did. It muddled along. But it's very clear we don't understand it. This system that we are a part of does things like the flash. The Dow lost 1,000 points in a half hour. Now they think it was the screwing around of one trader. This is a robust system. I'm going to argue that the fundamental unsustainability of the way in which we do business is what drove that collapse, and that if we fail to come to grips with it, it will simply drive collapse after collapse after collapse. This, I doubt, will surprise many of you. Jonathan Porritt, founder of Forum for the Future in the UK, advisor to the Prince of Wales, is of the same opinion, as now is Sir John Beddington, was chief scientist in the UK. And by the way, don't scribble notes. I'll leave you guys this show. Your mental model of how the world works drives what you do. This is just, it's part of being human. Our unexamined mental models determine a lot of what we do. This is the map that was given to the early Spanish explorers when they came to this part of the world. And you look at the Caribbean, the Yucatan, Florida, it's not bad until you get out here, where you have a little problem. The first guys to climb the Sierra Mountains carried boats because they knew they were going to find a beach. Literally, they disassembled boats, rowboats, strapped them on the sides of burros, and carted them over the mountains. Well, they found a lot of sand. So they came back and they said to the king of Spain, California is not an island. And, sent word all the way back, boats and such, and word came back, yes, it is, that's what the maps say. How much of what we're dealing with today is exactly that same problem? Somebody's mental model of how the world works doesn't quite line up with the objective reality on the ground. The folks on the ground say, it isn't working, and the folks who have the maps say, yes, it is, that's what the map says. How many of you have read this book? Read the book. Here's your homework. This was the #1 best-selling book on Amazon.com for all of 2007, much of 2008. Taleb, despite being insufferably arrogant, was one of the few people to accurately predict the collapse, when and why. He says that he takes his title, The Black Swan, from the story that in the old world, swans were white, until some fool bumped into Australia, found these very large birds that were, well, black. So they said, well, those aren't swans. Swans are by definition white, until the ornithologist said, sorry, they're swans. At which point people said, oh yeah, we knew that. Thereby failing to learn whatever lesson might have been there for them. Taleb says everything that matters in history, in innovation, in business, and in your personal life is like that. You didn't think of it till it happened. Unlike the bird, it changes everything. And he says these low probability, high impact events are accelerating. He said the winners will be those...
I'm just wondering if we can make a slight adjustment on the screen.
We're losing off the side, which is to say that's going to be that.
Yeah. But it was on the other side, too. It was on both sides.
Then it's a...
Oh, no, it's not.
Yeah, it was on
It's a resolution issue then. Stand by. Come on. .1024 by 768. That should be right.
Another connection we had with Hunter and the Fellows Program is Alice Hartley.
No. Okay.
Hartley. She was also an intern with Hunter from Dartmouth at the time, and when Dana died, I was in San Francisco, and Sustainability Institute hired me to help put together a big public memorial to help bring sustainability.
It doesn't like that.
Mainstream there, and Hunter was one of the speakers of that, but she couldn't come, so she had Alice Hartley, her intern, give that speech. Do you remember that?
Oh, yes.
And Alice, being a young college student, was traumatized by the and very well coached by Lynn Twist, who was another native colleague.
Oh, no, it came back.
And she ended up coming to work
All
in the
right.
Fellows Program. So it's all these nice little interconnections here.
Whatever you did before you closed it, had it up.
Let's see if that works.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yep.
Technology working for us.
Note to self, learn how to do all these little adjustments. Okay. Taleb says these low probability, high impact events are accelerating. The winners will be those who are prepared to accept this notion, expose themselves to the sort of information that when one of these things pops up, they can go, ooh, swan, and then rigorously exploit it. So how many of you would have invested in these guys? Particularly the 13-year-old down in the corner. Buckminster Fuller said the best way to predict the future is to invent it. How do you do that? I'm going to argue that one of the best ways to do that is to understand systems thinking, which was, among many, one of Dana's gifts to the world. You have probably seen this. This was put together by the counterinsurgency folks in the military in Afghanistan as an attempt to understand the system that they were dealing with. When this came out, my first thought was, oh, how very cool. They are beginning to think of this as a system. Well, that was not the reaction on the evening news, where they made a great deal of fun of death by PowerPoint, and how could our generals be so stupid as to be relying on incomprehensible PowerPoints. I'm now working with a man named Eric Berlow, who is working with some of the computer folks at Microsoft and the military on trying to use systems algorithms to understand this sort of thing. If, for example, what you really want to do is understand how you can get the popular support of the Afghan people for a legitimate government, preferably the one that we like, and so we can skedaddle out of the country, then what are, of all of this complexity, what matters? So Eric is a man named Eric Berlow, who had the main stage at TED Global this last summer, working with Microsoft on this algorithm, where if you take the area that matters, in this case, how do you get popular support, and you go 1 degree out, 2 degrees out, 3 degrees out, these are the only nodes in all of that complexity. These are the only nodes that matter. Of these nodes, many of them are things you can't do anything about, like the terrain is very rugged in Afghanistan. Yeah, okay, got it. Some of them are military, and that's not what this particular focus is on. How do you get the popular support of the people? Only a few of them are nonviolent, i.e. you can really do something about it, say, with NGOs. Of those nonviolent ones, you can pull out very quickly what are the ones that matter. And there are not many of them. This gives you the ability to take this complexity and drive to tactical understanding. Where do we put our time and effort? Pretty cool stuff, eh? You start with the complexity, and we confuse complexity with complicated. It's not, complexity isn't necessarily complicated, and in fact, when you embrace that complexity, that's how you get to the simplicity that enables you to see the actions that make sense for you. It is by pulling out from what we think is our target to the whole sophistication of the system, mapping the system correctly, understanding how all of its parts and pieces fit together and act together, that then enables you to know which of those are the ones that you can do anything about. So we are faced with a fair amount of complexity in the world. In the last 6 months, who'd have thought it? A volcano shut down global air travel. We blew a rig, and now the company's at risk. The pigs' economies are collapsing. Oh, and California, the 8th largest economy in the world, is vastly worse. We've created artificial life. We still don't even know what the implications of that is. China's now the world's #2 economy, the flash crash. We almost had another equivalent of 9/11. If that bomb had gone off, it was a competent bomb. It would have killed a lot of people. It fizzled, and they caught it. Pakistan, test firing nuclear-capable missiles and then went underwater. And the Russian fires, because so far, this is the hottest year ever on record.